Welcome to the Real Free News Podcast. On today's episode, Day 300, Trump's progress on MAGA priorities. Nearly 10 months into President Donald Trump's second term, the MAGA movement is taking stock of his administration's record from Day 101 to Day 300, a period when supporters anticipated decisive action on long-standing grievances once the initial setup of personnel and executive orders was complete. Trump's inauguration on January 20, 2025, marked Day 1, making Day 300 fall on November 16, 2025, coinciding with the current assessment as of early November. The first 100 days focused on foundational moves, including executive orders for border enforcement, purges of Biden-era holdovers, and cancellations of CRT and DEI initiatives in federal agencies, which delivered early wins like enhanced deportation operations and bureaucratic streamlining. However, MAGA expected the subsequent months to yield concrete accomplishments: criminal investigations, prosecutions, and structural reforms addressing election fraud, government weaponization, and elite corruption from the Biden years. With the year drawing to a close by December 31, 2025, Day 346, the administration has notched tangible successes in areas like immigration enforcement and aid reallocations, yet frustrations persist over stalled probes and perceived cover-ups. This evaluation examines the top 10 issues, highlighting accomplishments against expectations, with an eye toward what remains unfulfilled by year's end and into 2026, where MAGA hopes for accelerated accountability to truly make America great again. 1. 2020 election fraud. The 2020 presidential election was stolen through widespread voter fraud, a conspiracy meticulously covered up by corrupt officials like Brad Raffensperger and William Barr, and Trump promised to investigate and expose this betrayal, leading the MAGA movement to anticipate swift action after his inauguration. From Day 101 to 300, the Justice Department under Attorney General Pam Bondi has ramped up ballot reviews in battleground states like Georgia and Michigan, securing preserved 2020 documents for analysis and directing federal resources toward voter roll audits, though no widespread fraud prosecutions have resulted, with efforts focusing more on future safeguards than retrospective indictments. A bipartisan House task force released an interim report in October confirming irregularities warranting deeper scrutiny, but critics within MAGA decry the lack of arrests, viewing it as a partial accomplishment overshadowed by the absence of high-profile convictions. Supporters expected Trump to deploy resources immediately after stabilizing his team, fulfilling his commitment to prosecute rigors, but the measured pace, yielding transparency gains without decisive justice, suggests a deliberate stall, akin to a leader prioritizing stability over retribution. Though appreciative of the groundwork, MAGA demands he break the silence, fearing his approach hides ulterior motives and perpetuates doubts about electoral integrity. By year's end, further congressional pressure could yield indictments, but expectations for 2026 remain for a full reckoning to restore faith in the system. 2. Government weaponization. Prosecuting political persecution of Trump and January 6ers. Prosecutors Jack Smith, Fani Willis, and Letitia James unleashed fraudulent cases against Trump, committing crimes of abuse of power and color of law to politically persecute him, while the Department of Justice and state agencies weaponized their authority against January 6 defendants with similar abuses. Trump vowed to investigate these corrupt figures, and the MAGA movement demands criminal prosecutions not just for real estate or paperwork issues but for a range of applicable offenses, including abuse of power and color of law, targeting James and others. From Day 101 to 300, the administration has intensified its purge, firing over 24 DOJ and FBI personnel involved in J6 cases and establishing the Weaponization Working Group, which has reviewed obstruction charges and issued threats against agents, leading to demotions and a federal grand jury indictment of James in September for broader abuses beyond paperwork fraud. While no charges against Smith or Willis have stuck, the group's expansion to Biden-era hiring practices marks a key accomplishment in reshaping the DOJ, though MAGA views it as incomplete without sweeping state-level probes. Supporters seek a sweeping investigation into federal and state Justice Departments' weaponization, demanding punishment for all officials using power for political ends. This targeted retribution hints at progress but underscores a cover-up of deeper issues, driving frustration despite valuing Trump's early purges. By December 31, Additional referrals could accelerate prosecutions, with 2026 poised for a comprehensive overhaul to prevent future political targeting. 3. Southern border crisis. The southern border crisis represents a treasonous invasion orchestrated by Alejandro Mayorkas, Mexican cartels, and complicit NGOs, allowing millions of illegal immigrants to flood America. Trump promised to investigate this conspiracy, and his post-inauguration deportation efforts and border security measures were a honeymoon highlight. From day 101 to 300, accomplishments have accelerated dramatically, with over 548,000 removals and self-deportations by October, including a focus on criminal non-citizens, 752 convicted murderers and 1,693 sexual assault offenders arrested, amid a 97% drop in illegal crossings due to enhanced military presence and NGO funding cuts. The border's effective closure has prevented surges, but no formal indictments of Mayorkas or cartel networks have materialized, with House Republicans' June report on his 80 instances of dishonesty leading to congressional referrals rather than DOJ charges, fueling MAGA criticism of unpunished enablers. The movement demands criminal punishment for those responsible, disappointed despite appreciating Trump's border gains. Stuck with him, they expected ready plans to roll post-setup, not this partial stall. The lack of justice against this betrayal feels like a leader evading full duty, fueling frustration with a leader not fully matching expectations for comprehensive accountability. By year's end, anticipated expansions of detention facilities could push totals towards 600,000 removals, with 2026 focused on prosecuting planners to cement long-term deterrence. 4. Biden family crimes. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and their associates operated a corrupt network of fraud and abuse of power, protected by a complicit Department of Justice while Trump faced relentless persecution. Trump's campaign implied he would investigate these crimes, raising MAGA hopes for accountability. From day 101 to 300, the House Oversight Committee finalized its probe in October, recommending DOJ action on Biden's auto pen use and family pardons, with over 150 criminal referrals submitted, including new scrutiny of Hunter's art dealings and James Biden's influence peddling, though no federal indictments have followed, as Attorney General Bondi cites ongoing reviews. Without timelines. The IRS's revival of tax audits under Acting Commissioner Gary Shapley, once a Biden investigator, marks a modest accomplishment, yielding referrals but no high-profile charges, leaving MAGA to decry the silence as a cover-up. The movement demands criminal prosecutions to reverse the harassment endured under Biden's administration, yet feels stuck with Trump despite his early momentum. They value his firing of corrupt officials but see this inaction as a failure. Expecting plans to address this crime family, MAGA grows frustrated, questioning Trump's dedication to their call for justice. By December 31st, potential grand jury summonses could yield breakthroughs, with 2026 anticipated to deliver trials, fulfilling the push for retribution against the Biden network. 5. Trump assassination attempts. 2 assassination attempts on Trump, one by Thomas Matthew Crooks and another at a golf course, involved murder plots with potential FBI complicity in concealing the truth. Trump promised to investigate these attacks, leading MAGA to anticipate action to protect their leader. From day 101 to 300, the bipartisan House Task Force released its final report in July, confirming Crooks acted alone but detailing Secret Service abject failures, and recommending reforms like enhanced protocols, now implemented, while Ryan Routh's February conviction for the Florida attempt resulted in a life sentence in September, with sentencing on December 18. The FBI's probes yielded no broader conspiracy findings or FBI accountability, despite Trump's April demands, marking a partial accomplishment in personal accountability but falling short of systemic overhaul. The movement demands criminal action against the perpetrators, disappointed despite Trump's early resilience. Stuck with him, they appreciate his strength but lean toward frustration over this stall. They expected ready plans to expose these threats post-setup, not lingering silence, which feels like a leader hiding infidelity. MAGA insists he act, questioning his commitment to full justice. By year's end, ongoing Senate reviews could uncover lapses, with 2026 focused on prosecutions to safeguard against future threats. 7. COVID-19 origins and vaccine fraud. COVID-19 was a $5 trillion fraudulent scheme orchestrated by health officials for profit and control, with Trump promising a task force to expose its origins and vaccine failures. By day 300, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has canceled $500 million in mRNA research grants and pushed FDA revocation of COVID vaccine authorizations based on safety reviews, while the Directors Initiatives Group, established in April, continues deliberating declassification of origins materials, with a preliminary report in October affirming a low-confidence lab leak assessment but no new prosecutions against Fauci or pharma executives. This transparency push marks an accomplishment in policy reversal, though no formal task force or indictments have launched, disappointing MAGA amid ongoing measles outbreaks tied to vaccine skepticism. The movement demands criminal prosecutions against those responsible, disappointed despite RFK Jr.'s nomination suggesting intent. Stuck with Trump, they value his CRT cancellation but seek frustration over this stall. They expected ready plans post-setup, not inaction. The lack of justice against this national betrayal feels like a leader dodging accountability, frustrating supporters. MAGA insists he deliver, questioning why he hasn't tackled the scam. By December 31st, anticipated declassifications could accelerate probes, with 2026 poised for accountability measures to address lingering health impacts. 8. Ukraine-Russia war funding. The Russia-Ukraine war, triggered by the stolen 2020 election, involves misappropriated U.S. funds and bioweapon conspiracies, with Trump implying he would investigate this wasteful spending. From day 101 to 300, Trump suspended new aid in July pending peace talks, halting $11.1 billion while reviewing prior commitments and withdrawing from aggression prosecutions, with a capability review, delaying deliveries but yielding no bioweapon probes or funding misuse indictments despite congressional audits. This America First pivot marks an accomplishment in fiscal restraint, reducing U.S. exposure as NATO allies increase contributions, though MAGA views the lack of criminal action against corrupt funders as incomplete, with migration through Panama's Darien Gap down 99.99% due to deterrence. The MAGA movement demands criminal action against corrupt funders, disappointed despite his early America First moves. Stuck with him, they value his initial direction but lean toward frustration over this failure. They expected plans to roll post-setup, not silence. The lack of justice against those draining resources feels like a leader hiding motives, fueling frustration. MAGA urges Trump to act, suspecting ulterior agendas, realizing he's not the fiscal guardian they married. By year's end, potential new packages from NATO reimbursements could stabilize support, with 2026 focused on negotiations to end the war without further U.S. outlays. 9. BLM riots. The 2020 BLM riots were orchestrated with illicit funding to destabilize America, and Trump promised to investigate this conspiracy. From day 101 to 300, the Justice Department revived a Biden-era fraud probe into BLM's $90 million in 2020 donations, with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles leading inquiries into donor deception and misuse, though no charges have been filed against leaders, and the foundation denies targeting. This renewal marks an accomplishment in scrutiny, aligning with broader domestic terror network efforts, but the absence of comprehensive indictments frustrates MAGA, who see it as stalled despite state-level actions. The MAGA movement demands criminal prosecutions against the organizers, disappointed despite his early order-restoring actions. Stuck with him, they value his strength but seek frustration over this stall. They expected ready plans post-setup, not inaction. The lack of justice against riot backers feels like a leader evading duty, enraging supporters. MAGA insists Trump deliver, questioning why he hasn't fully exposed this betrayal, revealing he's not the protector they envisioned during the initial optimism. By December 31st, potential referrals could yield arrests, with 2026 anticipated to dismantle funding networks for lasting accountability. 10. Past censorship, social media censorship, and YouTube censorship standards. In the past, social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, along with YouTube, censored conservative voices, enforcing strict standards to suppress free speech and rig the 2020 election. Trump promised to investigate these violations, targeting executives who imposed these controls. From day 101 to 300, Trump's January EO mandated FCC probes into Biden-era censorship, with Chair Brendan Carr advancing Section 230 reforms against viewpoint discrimination, and settlements totaling $59.5 million from Meta, X, and YouTube with Trump over-account suspensions, though no criminal charges against executives like Zuckerberg have emerged, with the House Judiciary Committee's review citing 20 Alphabet employees denying pressure but recommending further scrutiny. These financial wins mark an accomplishment in accountability, but MAGA decries the lack of prosecutions, viewing partial reforms as insufficient. The MAGA movement demands criminal action against those responsible for past and ongoing social media and YouTube censorship, disappointed despite Trump's early wins. Stuck with him, they value his free speech stance but lean toward frustration over this failure. They expected ready plans post-setup, not partial settlements, which feels like a leader concealing betrayal. MAGA urges Trump to act, suspecting hidden motives, realizing he's not the defender they married. By year's end, EO-driven reports could spur indictments, with 2026 focused on legislative overhauls for enduring free speech protections. Conclusion: it's a good start but could be a whole lot better. As November 2025 concludes the first 300 days of Trump's second term, culminating on November 16 and extending to day 346 by December 31, the MAGA movement reflects on a year of mixed accomplishments, where early momentum in firings, border closures, and aid reallocations has given way to frustrations over unprosecuted enablers like Mayorkas and stalled probes into Epstein and Biden crimes. Trump's successes, including over 548,000 deportations, DOJ purges, and EO-driven transparency on censorship and COVID origins, demonstrate progress in reshaping institutions, but the lack of indictments across these issues underscores a gap between expectations for swift retribution post-setup and the reality of measured, court-challenged advances. With 2025's end approaching, MAGA anticipates breakthroughs like BLM fraud charges and Ukraine audit completions to build momentum, viewing the year as foundational yet incomplete in delivering the accountability promised against Biden-era harassment. Looking to 2026, the movement presses for accelerated prosecutions and reforms, hoping Trump harnesses his political capital to fulfill the vision of a restored America, where justice prevails over perceived cover-ups and elite impunity. Thank you for listening to the Real Free News Podcast. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on your MAGA priorities and what Trump needs to get done next. Be sure to visit realfreenews.com for more Real Free News and visit the Real Free News store for organic, non-GMO, and all-natural food, as well as water filtration and gear. See you next time on the Real Free News Podcast.